I post once in a while. I also reply to comments once in a while. I read every comment that comes. For me, that is my market research sort of way. Because especially in COVID times, I can't go to the store and meet my customer.
Hi, Sindhu. Welcome to this podcast. You're the fourth guest on this podcast, and I think you have a very unique and interesting background with, working in Pocket Aces, which for other people is basically the company that looks after Filter Copy, Gobble, and all of Dice Media and these channels. And you work as a senior growth marketer. Before this, you have worked at Paytm, and you also had your own firm. So welcome to this podcast, Sindhu. I'm very excited to have you. I think you're very friendly and also opinionated at the same time. So that is always an interesting conversation.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Ria, for having me. Thanks for the friendly and opinionated characteristic defining. That means a lot. Yeah,
All right.
I'm very excited for this. Yeah,
Great, great. Okay, so let's start with the rapid fire round where I basically
sure.
test your presence of mind and see how you can use it in the field of marketing. Okay, so I hope
Okay,
you're ready for
okay.
it.
Yes, bring it on.
Okay, so the first question is, if you were a CEO, what would be the three things you would look at first thing in the morning?
First thing in the morning, okay, I would check my calendar for sure. I would check the news app, which is checking out what is happening. And maybe I would check my WhatsApp because I'll see what my family group has to say, what my friends have to say, what my company people have to say. Yeah, I think
But,
that's the first
but
thing.
how is that different than what you do now? Right? It's a
I don't think it will be different. No, I don't think it's still me. It's still me. It's still me with more powers and more responsibilities, but the real me will still be me. So yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. So the second question is, what superpower would you like to have as a marketer?
Ah, more budgets, more money, asking power. Yeah, I think more money, asking power will be the superpower that I would
Oh
need.
yeah, that's so true. With like more money, I feel like you can do a lot more experiments and like get learnings, and that's what like we all dream of, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Obviously, you need money. So, I mean, you could be a growth marketer with 2,000 rupees per month from 2000 to 2 crores, but you need money to experiments also. And you need a lot of power regarding a little bit of free hand so that people are okay, that, okay, you can feel, but you need a little bit of free hand.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so I remember you told me you had a bit of background in music industry. So the next
Right.
question is sort of designed in that way. So
Okay.
basically, I like to think of everything as a brand, whether it's a person, a place, a celebrity, or anything, right? Like brand is basically the associations you make with something. So in that way, I would like to know how would you define these musicians in three words? Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So the first one being A.R. Rahman.
In three words: calm, spiritual, critical thinking, critical thinker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Second one, Prateek Kuhal.
Uh, Calm, too much involved in love, I guess. Uh, Third being South Bombayish. I don't know. I think.
I love it.
Yeah,
I
I
love
think
it.
South Bombayish. Yeah.
Yeah, even I thought he's too romantic. He's like a Indian Ed Sheeran, but even more sad, probably.
Yeah, Indian Ed Sheeran with more sad because Ed Sheeran still does happy songs a lot of times, but
Yeah, but he
he
does.
still sounds Arijit in English version where Arijit was playing blues. It's like that.
Wow. Okay. Awesome. Um, Third one is Eminem.
Eminem, okay, F word, exponential infinity is one. Great lyricist, great lyricist. Third is great sense of what you say, attacking. I mean, he's a beast in that sense.
Yeah, I guess you're referring to all the battles that have happened, right?
Exactly, exactly.
Anyway, the fourth one being Beyonce.
I have less idea about that, but I think what I have understood till now is one is very empowering. Second is very, very bold. Um, Third is very, very loud singer. I mean, a very good loud singer.
Yeah, yeah, true that. I think Beyonce's brand is like very well defined, I feel, because that's how like all the audiences, right? Even if they don't love one particular song, they will still root
Right.
for her because there's like this whole community of bees, right?
Right, right, right. I
Bee
think I
hive.
agree to this. I think people don't love Beyonce. I mean, a lot of people don't love Beyonce for the singing. A lot of people love for the personality that she brings on. So she's a very well-defined brand, to be honest.
Yeah, like I am one of the bees as well, and for me, it's more about like the message that comes with her, right? Like what is beyond
Right.
the strong, independent women sort of thing, more than like
Correct.
the
Correct.
actual thing that she sings. And I think in that way, she
Right.
really created like a community for herself.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely agree.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's go on to the next section. So here's the
Sure.
$1 million question. What do you think is next in marketing?
I feel next in marketing is more social media apps coming up, more social media marketing, moving away from social media content marketing to more of social media marketing used as a growth tool, used as a branding tool. We see that happening a lot. More of vernacular marketing techniques coming up because I mean, the English marketing is too oversaturated right now. People are trying to fight into that battle. I don't think any tool is coming up which will overkill the market. I don't think VR and sound marketing, which a lot of people say is coming up to be the massive future. It is a future, but it's still niche. I still feel social media marketing is to be exploited at its full potential, and we just are at the start of it. And video marketing is going to be even bigger than we see today. We have very less knowledge about it right now, but it's just getting bigger and bigger.
Right. So I feel like the social media bubble has sort of started from like Facebook, I would say. I mean, there were
Right.
Orkut and all of that, but it wasn't as mass as, Facebook is.
Exactly.
And I think
Exactly.
that started around like 2007, correct me if I'm wrong. So it's been about 13 years for that, right?
Right.
Since Facebook
Right.
started and blew up and stuff. So what do you think is different this time?
Okay, so I'll give you very, very particular insights that I have seen. So if you see how the teams, marketing teams are formed in any company 3 years back or pre 3 years era, you will see that there was a social media team, which was supposed to be kind of, I mean, your marketing head will say, "Ki, Arey, ye organic sambhalega." These are the only teams who will say organic. And the organic, by definition, these people used to treat that they are content writers. You used to hire content writers and get them into social media team. There was one social media analyst whose job was only to calculate data, and there were performance marketers who were called to be the saviors कि इनको पैसा दो और ये लोग संभालेंगे. That mentality is changing a lot because social media is not just about great content. It's about great tactics. It's about social media can have a growth mentality. And I can give an example. Filter Copy proved this whole phenomenon that everyone used to say you should upload one content per day. You should upload max 2 content per day. Filter Copy upload 8 content per day on Instagram. Any social
Wow.
media analyst or any social media book, even social media examiner, till now writes on his blog that hey, you should do only 1 or 2. How why we are still the biggest Instagram profile viewed page in India right now. So the point that I'm trying to make is the potential is still need to be figured out, and more performance marketeers need to have this knack of doing things organic, because day by day everyone is seeing your CPMs will get higher, your budgets will shrink in, and I mean, when it starts happening, it's already happening. You need to rely on organic, and organic is not just content. So that's why it's shifting. It will keep on shifting more and more.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's very true. Also, you said that there's a growth aspect now to social media instead of being content driven. Could you elaborate a bit
Right.
more about that?
Initially, what I used to see is, as I told you, that copywriters and content writers were hired. There was a content strategist who came from a content marketing background, and they used to write, okay, इस दिन ये डालेंगे. There used to be a social media calendar and we used to do this. That was majorly motivated by market demands. Like if there is an International Burger Day, the only thought we had was, hey, we'll upload a meme around, let's say, burger.
Mm-hmm.
What is the meme length? What is the video length? How long should the meme be? When should you post it? How will you distribute it? Which is the hashtags that need to be used? People used to do very basic thing before that. Open a tool like Hashtagify or something, and the hashtags that they say will put it out. Only social media analysts used to check what is the number of reach that was coming from hashtag and derive insights from it. Versus right now, it's the marketer's own job who is uploading the content should understand every metric of it, because it's not the analyst who will tell you that this copy is working. You may have 5 content writers and only one analyst. One analyst can't give insights to all the 5 marketeers. You should know it yourself.
Yeah.
I think in that way it's changing a lot. I see good companies doing out there. It's still at the early stages. Before we used to be like, let us be more creative. Creativity will drive growth. Before it was that. Right now it's like, no, distribution will drive growth. Content is a sub part of it. So let's us try to understand what is distribution. A lot of marketers are analyzing Facebook algorithms. Why are they analyzing? It's just a growth mentality. I myself try to figure out, okay, how Facebook as a product is behaving. It's not a part of my job role if I was a social media marketer 3 years back. So I guess that's the growth mentality I'm trying to point out.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think it would have progressed in a way that, before content wasn't so, it wasn't saturated with content, right? Like our feeds weren't saturated.
Right.
Now everybody is now putting content. So what's next? Figure out the best way to give this content to your consumers. And I guess that's how the gradual change happened into the growth mentality, right? I read this quote once, which I feel like relates to this. It wasn't like a quote, it was like a LinkedIn status by someone. And it said that instead of finding a copywriter who can write for your marketing campaigns, you find a marketer who's good at copywriting.
I guess Dave
It
wrote it.
Dave.
Yeah. I love that quote. Trust me, I can so relate to it. I love that quote.
Yeah, it's in that sense, right? Like, if we can encourage performance marketers to start being creative, because they're already analytical, we know that. If you kind of help them to be a bit more creative, or you probably join content writers and performance marketers, to work together, then, both of them can learn from each other, like analytical and creative skills. So I want to go a little bit back to when you're talking about creating local content, right? So how do you go about that? Like when you first started it, like, because there isn't much of a benchmark or things to refer to in this content. So how do you go about strategizing something like that?
It's very hard, to be honest. I'll tell you, especially in the market like India, where, I'll tell you nuanced stuff. When I was, I got a lot of insights and industry learnings when I was working with Paytm Insider, because I was promoting Martin Garrix's event to anyone who was speaking English. At the same time, I was promoting Tamil Talaiva Pro Kabaddi League match in Tamil Nadu in Tamil script and language. So and also in Sonipat, I guess, some Delhi Daredevils team, the team of Abhishek Bachchan and all. What are the nuances? I'll tell you. We sit in Mumbai, or any marketer who sits in Delhi, who is from, let's say, one city. Let's assume that he is from tier 2, or he has never seen tier 2. Puts his or her confirmation bias regarding the audience when we are doing our targeting. Let's say we think people who are living in Gujarat, everyone speaks English. Hence, when you target the whole Gujarat, your product is in English and your language targeting is English. It will work great. I'll tell you where the problem comes. You're selling a product, which is, you're selling an app, let's say. You are promoting an app. The app is only in English. There is no language support. There is only English. Mm-hmm. The CMO or the CEO has told you, hey, I want to acquire local audience. By local audience, inside our mind, what is going on? Hey, I'll acquire a local audience who speak Hindi, and my CPIs will go down. What I start doing, I'll write my ad in Devanagari script and I'll target language targeting Hindi. CPI is great. Your CPI will come down 20%, 30% lower. But your product is still in English. You acquired that user showing Devanagari script. He said, okay, great, I will click this ad. Installs the app is in English, then that means you are assuming the guy who knows Hindi also knows English, which is not really the same in majority of India.
Yeah.
And your bounces will go up, your uninstallations will go up, your retention will go down, beautiful L curve, and you will say that, hey, why it is not working? Localization is bad. No, your confirmation was not right. Your biasness was not right. So localization is very, very tough. So if you have to do it the right way, then you have to fix the product. Your product should support Hindi. I think the right way to go about it is having a parallel stream. Only acquire users in local if your app can support that. If no, then don't do that. This is a very basic fundamental. So I think we have to fix that.
I love your perspective, honestly, because whenever I think about marketing problems, I try to relate it to like consumer, but I love how you
Right.
relate it to the product as well, probably because of your background, right? Coming from a product manager sort of role. I feel like I should look up into what happens in product manager sort of role as well, because it all
Right.
ties in together. And I see
Yeah,
it.
I think it has got a lot to do with empathy. When a lot of articles we read and a lot of good marketers out there say, hey, customer empathy is important. When you say customer empathy, it means putting that customer, putting yourself into the customer shoes. And when your customer is using your app, how come you can miss out when my customer is using my app? He will not understand half of the language because his lingo is not the same.
Fair enough. So, seeing that both of us like have like YouTube background,
Sure.
every forum I go, people wanna ask, can you still start a YouTube channel in 2020?
Right.
What do you feel about that?
You can start a channel. It is not oversaturated. The supply is too high. So every demand has a supply which is already sorted. So your question is not starting a channel. The question is what is the extra value add you are giving. In 2020, what has happened is you cannot say I'm creating another channel which is replica of XYZ channel, but the only thing I'm changing is packaging. Is the only thing I'm changing is the host ka lingo or the content. No, the topic by default needs to be completely different. Then only you will be able to survive. There is no other way. Your growth will be slow for sure, but the only right way is the right answer is yes, you can go ahead. But the thing is, see, YouTube channel is a product by default. The great thing is YouTube analytics gives you exactly what a product analytics gives you. It gives you retention. It gives you where is the traffic coming from and everything. Hence, you will need to treat as a product. Define who are your 1,000 customers, how are you acquiring them, where are they coming from? Is it from YouTube recommendations or from suggestions? Is it coming from YouTube SEO or from somewhere else? And create a strategy around it, how a product strategy is made. So I think that needs to be figured out. If you have figured it out, then I don't see a reason why not to start. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like this goes back to, what we're discussing about the new approach to social media, right? Like, I think when YouTube started, it was more like people could get popular and become influencers out of very generic topics, and just because you're consistent and stuff. Obviously,
Right.
consistency is still very important. If your topic
Exactly.
is pretty niche and there's nobody else out there who's really doing it, then it would add
Right.
value. Where your
Right.
content is probably just 1-2 people are uploading that sort of content, then it would work out. And eventually,
Right.
once you are a bigger channel, you could sort of grow that niche and include a lot more other topics, because you would already have a community built up by that point. And you could see like, okay, people in, let's say, performance marketing, they're also very interested about social media, and you could slowly go on and do related topics. So yeah, like we can't use
Exactly.
the same, we can't listen to a success story of somebody who has 10-15 million subscribers and just emulate the same thing. It won't work anymore. So yeah.
Exactly. I think I would like to add one thing here so that everyone is kind of taking some kind of an insight. Here is the right way to start a YouTube channel, or I mean, if you are a product marketer, if you have a little bit of understanding, you will know that you start from a niche. You start from very, very niche and then you go broad. Naki, you start from broad because there is high demand and then you go niche. It doesn't work that way. Your first 1,000 customers, are your brand evangelist. You have to train them, you have to make them your super fans, you have to make them your family members, and they will get their lookalikes. They will get next 1,000 members, and that's how your product grows. The trick here is, tomorrow if I have to start a digital marketing channel, let's say, where I give digital marketing ka gyan or stuff, I will not go, my first video will not about what is digital marketing. My Google keywords or everything may say that digital marketing search volume is very, very high, but I will not do that. I will not, it's a trap. Trust me, it's a trap. I would rather put out first video about growth, let's say, because I know for next 3 months, I will only talk about growth. I want all growth marketers in my channel. When I have saturated that whole funnel, I will ask these growth marketers to bring other performance marketers, because there is synergies in skills and synergies in interest. Once I have performance marketers and growth, then I can create a community and I can brand this channel as, hey, there is a community where half of the digital marketers are here. So if you're a brand marketer and if you want to move inside digital, you should be here as well. Then you get brand marketers, and then you have a whole brand marketers plus digital marketers community. Lock that community, go to traditional marketers, and then say, hey, what are you doing? All the digital marketers are here. Come inside this community. That's how you grow any product, any channel. That's the right approach to do it.
Yeah, that's amazing. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, cool. So let's transition to the section 3, where we can
Sure.
sort of talk about what exact actionables can people take, and what are some things that might have helped you in your journey in Pocket Aces as well. So let's start with probably the first topic that we spoke about, how social media should be approached in a growth sort of manner. So if you could just tell us like 3-4 actionables that have helped you along the way.
Okay, sure. The first actionable when I joined was a very good call that my founders took. Is they simply told me that, hey, you may have learnings from your past. Your first day till D15 is not to give any past gyan. Generally, when we switch companies, what we do is we try to show off what I have learned from the last company. Hey, you're not doing this. In last company, we used to do this. This is a very basic framework that anyone follows. So I was told that don't do anything. Just go into listening mode and go into a design thinking mode. Ask everyone, what have you been doing till now? Document everything. Then do a critical thinking. Ask each and every aspect of it. Like for an example, if your thumbnail is in a certain way, why is it in a certain way? Why your text to image ratio is 30%? What is the logic? Write everything down. Then put your own logic and define everything. After you do that study, you will get a lot of perspective. You can get your own perspective and you can draw some more perspective. Second is behavior driven approach. Before doing any ad, and initially we are guilty also because we were not trained in that way. The first marketing, every digital marketing course out there teaches you how to run Facebook ad. Hardly very few teaches you how Facebook as a platform performs. What are the buttons out there on Facebook, how people behave on Facebook, and the same people behave differently on Instagram. No course ever teaches you that. It's a more self-awareness approach. So a lot of time should go into understanding consumer behavior on Facebook. If you, and also another piece of advice, if you are a performance marketer, your ad is running on Facebook. So never ever say psychology is not my forte, because your ad is running on Facebook and not on some different platform. You will need to know why a certain amount of meme is working, because your ad is competing with that organic content. Facebook is not pushing your ad more. Facebook is promoting that organic content more. Unless and until I know what is going on Facebook, what is the kind of ad I'll make. So a lot of time should go into this. A lot of reading should go into this. Third thing is, I personally spend a lot of time analyzing the blanket metric, which everyone does, is CPMs and your everything. We spend a little few time regarding very specific metrics, like what is a time slot that is working. If I bring it down to YouTube, what is that? I was recently doing this experiment. I'll just share with you also. What is the time slot that is giving me lowest CPV? What is the time slot that is giving me high retention? Is it that my ads are longest watched post 7 p.m. and lowest watched in 10 a.m. to 11 a.m.? If yes, then maybe 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. wala slot is giving you lesser CPV, but doesn't matter. I will put my all the money into that time where longest ad watching is happening. So this minute micro behavior analysis needs to be done, because we spend a lot of time in checking CPV, CPM, CPC, CTRs, landing page click. Half of the time goes into checking out, okay, this dashboard data is right or not on Google Analytics, and doing those fraud management and everything. We forget the real behavior thing of people.
Wow, these are really good action moves. I feel like I want to go back and check all of my campaigns. All right, awesome. This was fun having you.